Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighborhood friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle Earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her unapologetic audacious era.
Settle down onto your favorite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into their connections, unlike my internet today, of our favorite characters. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers.
Tangent Squad, here we go again down Penelope Lane. Only this week, we are going to analyze the special quote unquote love triangle of
Peneweaslin.
Peneweaslin was the winner. Peneweaslin. Although I did just think of one as we started this pod, which was Co-Penewease.
We had very notable entries. Let's take a quick look. We had Peneweaslin, colonoscopy, which does sound like a colonoscopy.
It does.
Co-L-Pen, Heck, which was my entry. And Sarah, because everyone was saying, oh, they're too medical sounding. And I said, oh, what about just PEC, PEC? And then Sarah says, well, that sounds like anatomy. And I said, well, that's rather fitting because all three of them have suddenly acted like that anatomy in the last 3 seasons.
For sure. That is too funny. But yes, we've had a lot of fun playing around with their love triangle name. And this is an interesting love triangle.
Wrong. Connection triangle.
Yeah, connection triangle. And we are going to have phone issues. PS, because we just did.
Yes. So at the moment, my internet has decided to play hooky and is not working. And I have just spent the last hour on the phone to my internet providers trying to get it rectified because it's been out for 2 days now. So they have provided me 20 gigs of internet on my phone so that I can still do my Zoom meeting today.
I know it's too late and the toothpaste is out of the tube for today, but did you lose the little toggle that came with the mic that you can plug it into an iPhone?
Yeah. Yes. My house was packed up, Betty.
Yeah. that would have been good. Just saying.
I moved houses.
Well, just don't get excited. It seems to cut out when you get excited.
I will try to keep my excitement to the minimum.
Yeah, scale it back there. Scale it back.
Sorry. I'll be in my unexcited era today.
Unexcited era. You'll be in your demure era.
Was that internet sensation like so demure, so thoughtful? I don't even remember what it was. I am none of those things, people.
No, either. Okay, so we are delving into
snacks.
Let me finish the intro part. We're delving into this connection triangle and how this friendship as a triangle has shaped Penn. And I'm so glad we're doing this because I completely forgot because I started into note for the second half and I thought of something that arcs the whole second half. And now I get to talk about it in this because I was like, how am I going to make that point clear till the end?
I'm actually really loving jumping from Penelope, Eloise, Colin, and Marina too, but mostly Penelope, Eloise, Colin to season 3 part 2 because I think that season 3 part 2 actually unpacks a lot of the unresolved from season 1 and dynamic of the 2 siblings plus the 2 nearly siblings being Eloise and Penelope. Like the 3 of them are like Eloise and Penelope are sisters, and Colin and Eloise are siblings, but the 3 of them are not siblings.
Right.
Weird.
Okay, so now we can talk pod snacks.
What is your pod snack of?
I only have drinks because I was out running errands and I did a McDonald's run. So I am currently not eating anything, but if we do manage to do a second pod, depending on your gigs, then I will have a snack in that one. But I do have all my drinks. I have an electrolyte mix for water and soda.
I have my typical tired ADHD mum breakfast of a iced coffee.
And I just want to say here, because for pod snacks. The pod snacks are normally sponsored by someone who sponsors us, supports us on Buy Me a Coffee. I'm hoping by the time this airs, we have that figured out. But right now, they are not liking what I'm submitting to them to prove that we're content creators and that we have the Buy Me a Coffee link.
It's racist. That's
Okay,
what I'm going
you
with.
broke up. They have no idea what you just. Please repeat.
I said they're just being racist to me because I'm a Kiwi.
Yeah, I don't understand because it's right in our description of our YouTube videos.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll get it. I mean,
We'll get it right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is who we are. We barrel in and we learn as we go.
Yes. How many issues have we every time we try to get ahead with our pod? Like we have technical issues of some variety or another. Like our technical issues started even restarted the computer or turned off the whole power without telling me. And I was midway through editing a podcast and I'm like, oh, thank you so much. Great communication skills, husband. You can cook dinner tonight. You owe me now.
Okay, so we are on a gigabyte minimum because she got some gigs on her phone. So we're gonna dive right in.
Thank you for meeting me on our Zoom meeting today.
What?
Because I said that was the only reason they gave me 20 gigs because obviously Zoom calls take up a lot of data. And I was like, if like 2 gigs of data, is that even going to be enough for this call? And so I was like, hey, I'm actually meant to be in my Zoom meeting with my boss at 9 a.m. and it's 9:45 currently. Can we do something to help me in the meantime? And he's like, yep, I'll give you 20 gigs. Like, I'm so sorry that you've missed your meeting. And I'm like, she's waiting.
You heard that, everyone. She said, I'm the boss. It's official. No, I'm kidding.
That's okay because I'm usually the bossy one, so that's fine.
I'm like the whatevs.
Now we must make haste into today's episode.
So I'm wondering if I want to start with this big thought I had today.
Give us the big thought.
And start there. I mean, it doesn't analyze necessarily Penelope and Eloise and Penelope and Colin throughout, but it does kind of link it to the book because we know in the book, Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, there's a funny little back and forth where Colin and Eloise kind of fight over who's going to be the most important to Pen.
Yeah.
And, Colin's monologue, he kind of says he would never come in between the two of them. So in his mind, Eloise would always come first, and it's kind of like a joke. I mean, they were definitely joking, but in a Friends to Lovers where it's also a brother of your best friend kind of trope, there is that thought process of who is not necessarily more important, but who becomes that person who takes priority. And I love the mirror moments throughout the season, especially the second half, because we know Eloise has been mad the whole first half. And this is as, Colin is developing his plan and getting himself together to get to propose. And then in the second half, Eloise is angry, but then the queen wants to out Whistledown. And as things progress, Eloise kind of realizes her mistake in befriending Cressida. And so she starts forgiving Pen because she kind of can see why Pen wrote, what danger is in it for her, because now she's not worried about being outed herself or any of that mess like she was in season 2. Now she understands what Penelope has at stake, and she's kind of lived through it, that she's starting to actually have some empathy, and it helps her to forgive or work towards forgiveness. And then Penelope, of course, saves the family again. But then Colin he gets angry later. I'm sorry, you broke up.
I said Batman strikes again.
Yeah. He gets angry later and he has to go through his feels. But the arc I want to point out is when Eloise is angry, Colin is the one who is, I'm sure all will be well, right? He's the one there. He's Pen's champion. And then after the wedding, when her and Colin argue, Eloise is there. Like, I'm sure everything will be okay. Right. So we see her toggle back and forth. And then when the two of them are both helping her and Colin goes to Cressida and then comes back, like he feels like he failed. So like, oh, her and Eloise are chummy again. They're holding hands. Their friendship is fully repaired. And he's like, I'm low man on the totem pole. But we know who Pen chose because all the way up through this point in time, since Colin found out, They both have known. They both have been equal. She has asked for both of their counsel at the same time because Eloise happened to be in the room with Colin when she showed up with her mother. But at Francesca's wedding, she doesn't ask both Eloise and Colin to go have a conversation. She tells Colin she wants to out herself as Whistledown.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we know that? Because Eloise was all kinds of surprised when the queen walked in saying Whistledown wrote her letter.
Mm-hmm.
Eloise had no idea. So I think that played into Eloise's decision to go with Fran because she realized she should make Colin the priority. I've got to give them some time to settle into their marriage.
Some
kind
space.
of like from her advice from Kate and stuff like that. And so her choosing to go to Scotland with Francesca is like, I got to get out of Dodge because I don't know if I can watch this yet. But I got to give them some space. And I think she finally stepped back and was like, okay, she's accepting quote unquote defeat, but not defeat, right? It's like she's still very important to Penn, but she's come to realize Penn chose Colin, as she should, now that they're married, as her main confidant.
I think we both know that Colin is definitely the my wife, Bridgerton, and he's that full trope. You know how there's those men out there, and this is not a read at all. This is just an observation because I've got a friend going through it right now where like they're still like when you get married, when you're early in a relationship, I think you do go more through that honeymoon phase. Whereas for Steve and I, we were together 5 years before we got married. And I was excited and happy in that. But like in my mind, we were married from the day we were together, so it kind of takes away some of that like anxious anxiety. But there's those men out there and women as well who are like, my wife, my wife, my wife. And they're so excited to be married, which is cute as anything. But I think it's sometimes just a little bit insufferable to be around. And I think Eloise is like, I got to get the heck out of town before my brother turns into my wife, Bridgerton.
Well, he already did because I think he was making up for lost time. Like he doesn't tell her he loves her until what is it, 10 or 12 minutes into, maybe 8 minutes into episode 5. But then he says he loves her to her and everyone else. Like even when he's mad at her and he can't say he loves her to her, like he's still telling everyone else, like, this is going to be my wife. I mean, in all of his actions, the decorations at the church for the wedding that he would have orchestrated, that was the groom handles the church part, the bride's family handles the wedding breakfast. So everything in that church was Colin Bridgerton being.
And you know what's the cutest thing ever? I can imagine him and his mum at the markets with Mrs. not Mrs.
Wilson.
Varley, Wilson. And the two mums kind of guiding him like, oh, Penelope looks really lovely. These colors. And he goes, no, I would like some yellow in there to represent. Like, I can just imagine the three of them collaborating on those wedding flowers.
I don't think there was much collaboration. I think they were walking through the market and Violet was going, oh, look at these really pretty pink, the feminine colors. And he's like, blue, yellow, done. All of them. All of them. Because there's so many flowers in that church.
Colin is a writer and words matter and all of that.
And the meanings of flowers matter. And he would have known that.
I think he would have, and especially, you know what would have been really cuter? That was great English. Well done, Tosh. You know what would have been super, super cute? If he had the time, if he had wrote to Sir Philip saying, can you please, in these color families, can you please tell me what flowers would suit this is our story. Can you help me pick out flowers that would represent our story?
And that's how Marina found out.
Yeah.
Like, what now?
Throwing out the ultimate bro game.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And we say hopefully if Colin had time, because we know that man did a lot of stuff in 4 weeks.
Yes. Sarah, if you're wanting any new fanfic ideas, here you go.
Yeah. Everything, like a story of everything Colin managed in 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we want it to include a letter to Philip asking about the flowers.
And it's called Letters to Sir Philip.
To Sir Philip with like.
With love. With bro love. To Sir Philip with bro love.
Sir Philip's book with Colin is Bromancing Mr. Bridgerton.
This is too good. I
That gives me a tickle.
I think the two of them, like out of all the brothers, I actually think that Sir Philip and Colin would actually probably get along the best because they're both more sensitive males.
Yeah, and they're both very they have special interests and
Mhm.
they're not afraid of allowing the other person to talk about their interests, and their interests kind of go in together because with Colin traveling, he can talk about other plants found in the world, and they're just both giddy about that forever.
Mhm.
So, okay. So, how do we want to start this? Do we want to start from what
I've got
we
my
think
notes.
from childhood,
Mm,
or where do you want to start?
Sorry, I decided I did want Pond Stacks. And one of my favorite brands in New
I know
Zealand.
you're eating something crunchy. Now I want.
Can you believe that they brought back one of my favorite flavors? And no surprise that the Greek, this is her favorite flavor. They brought
Right.
out flavor potato chip. My heaven. That is my heaven in a flavor. Although apparently in
It
Greece,
sounds good.
apparently they have a Lay's that is oregano flavor, and apparently it's like the best thing on this planet.
Oregano flavored chip. I could be down for that.
I was like, yep, that sounds pretty good. I found in Japan a honey flavored potato chip and I was skeptical, and it was phenomenal. It was like the perfect balance of sweet and savory. Now
That
back
sounds
off,
good.
back off Pod
Back
Snack.
to the episode.
Snack that is Penelope because she is snack size. Okay, so I want to talk about the episode 7 of season 1, Lady Whistledown article, because I think it goes off, it kind of goes into we talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but we didn't get to the Eloise of it all, of how she reacts after the fact and how she transforms from being very self-centered, very single-minded, which it's not intentional. It's not like I don't care what you're thinking or feeling, but I think it also is really important to talk about because when we're going into episode 5 in our next episode, the whole start of episode 5 is very much about her going back and regressing to the early parts of season 1. And it's quite interesting because season 1 and season 3 actually mimic in the early parts of season 1, her being an incredibly selfish friend. You see her repeating the exact same histories she had with Penelope of being very single-minded and ignoring anyone else's feelings, to the second part where she becomes a little bit more self-aware and tries to be a little bit more supportive. So season 1, season 3 actually mimic each other exactly in how Eloise acts. So
There's a
season
lot between season 1 and season 3 that mimic.
so much. So Lady Whistledown starts as Miss Marina Thompson's recent fall from grace continues to echo through every drawing room in town days after it was revealed her engagement to Colin Bridgerton was nothing more than a sham. Of course, a lady's disgrace does not merely tarnish her own name like the tars of the Thames. It also leaves a horrid smear on anyone nearby. While there is no parasols in the world strong enough to shelter a ruined woman, the fallen Miss Thompson should only hope she can find a refuge somewhere. So the reason that this part is kind of really important is because it kind of voices over as Eloise is going into the Modiste. And what she is noticing is everyone in the Modiste is like shunning the Featheringtons. They're all talking about the Featheringtons, but they are also talking about the Bridgertons in a kind of a negative, not quite negative light, but like a gossipy, oh, we're talking about them, let's not go near them. So it does kind of also negatively impact the Bridgertons. But Eloise doesn't focus on that at all. She does not care one little bit that it affects her. I mean, you can tell she doesn't even really care that it affects her mum because she knows that her mum is poised and strong and her reputation is strong enough to kind of withstand it. So she's not so worried. But for the Featheringtons who already kind of have this, oh, they're gaudy, they're outrageous, they don't fit into the ton. She already knows that they kind of have a mar against them. So to have this smear on top of a mar is a death sentence for the Featheringtons. And this is when I think she starts to kind of come up with this idea that maybe it could be Genevieve Delacroix.
I think that Whistledown and the fact that she could not stay at the garden party because Eloise was trying to get information, see how she was and everything. Because that's the kind of friend Eloise is. Like she doesn't like when she knows it's bad if you're not out in society, right?
Yeah.
So I think that spurred her into her own white knight syndrome. I think her and Colin are the female male equivalents in the family. Like they're very similar, where she's a little bit more of the masculine and he's a little bit more of the feminine in terms of sensitivity. I do think they're very similar. Like they both hold a grudge. They understand each other's temperaments.
They also go hand in hand, like as in season 3 and season 1, they can't both be at odds with Penelope at once because no matter how mad they are at her for different reasons, ironically, in season 3 it's the same reason, they just don't know it, that they both are like, oh, well, if we're both mad at her, she's got no one to support her and we need someone to support her. So like,
right.
we had to know who's mad.
Yeah, they played teeter-totter and pens in the middle. Like,
yeah.
And I think the two of them realizing they're mad for the same reason. Well, they're mad for the same reason, but they have different perspectives on that. Because I still believe that Eloise's anger is about Whistledown, but I don't think it's being kept a secret from her. I think her issue is she could have explored more with Theo. Had she known Penn was Whistledown, she would have known Penn would not have outed her and Penn would have protected her. And she was heartbroken by how everything happened with Theo because she did like him. She wanted to kiss him, but she understood what that meant for her. And there was higher stakes because Penn said people were talking. And now that she knew Penn was Whistledown, she's like, I could have explored that and I lost an opportunity. And she decided Penn was at fault. Whereas like Colin finding out Penn is Whistledown and all he can think about is all the horrible things said and his own ego being bruised. Like he has to come around to understand her thought process behind what she wrote. Like his coming to forgiveness was about why she wrote what she wrote and how could she write it. Whereas Eloise's was more, friend betrayal. Eloise like pretty much never truly cares about what was written about her in Whistledown. Like, and what was written about her was far more scandalous than what was written about Colin.
Yes.
Like she was outed as being a political rabble rouser, basically. Like she's a radical and going against the queen. And he just said he didn't know who he was, but he took it so much more to heart than Eloise did.
Because one of those things was true. Well, I mean, both of them were true.
Well, yeah, the truth hurts more than a lie. So there is that.
Yes. So,
but I think the best line that explains their sibling connection is when when she says, what was his condition? And Penn says, oh, he was furious. The look on Eloise's face is like, I've been here before. And she starts basically formulating her plan. And then I won't say attacks, but he confronts her going up the stairs, right? And she knows she's got to be on the offensive with Colin when he's mad. You can tell because she had to meet his mad with her mad for him to calm down. And they have understood each other and understood each other's temperament for years. And Penn being, both the woman, the girl that they have had to protect has not seen this side of either one of them until now. So she's navigating it for the first time, but to them, it's old hat. And he's like, have you forgiven her? And she's like, I want to. Like, dude, she's already saved your family and you're only at I want to. But what she says to Colin, she's like, do you think you can? Like they're both standing there realizing for the first time, both of them are on the outs with Penn and Penn is alone.
Yeah. And I think what's happened in season 3 is with the Eloise situation of it all, you've got to get over your initial hurt before you can start rationalizing. You can't rationalize the hurt because it just does not work. Like anyone who's ever gone through a big friendship breakup or even a big fight where it's not just like a use that I look fat in those pants kind of a situation, you know that you've a friendship breakup hurts possibly more than a relationship breakup in ways because they're the ones that we think will always be there,
Well, and we're conditioned in society to believe that relationships end, but friendships don't. Like most of your friendships in media and movies are these long time, been friends since kids, these women, especially women friendships, like they've been friends since, like they've known each other in every phase of their life. And so it is very difficult when you have that friendship that's weathered several phases of your journey, several phases of your growth, and to have it end, because sometimes we ascend to that next version of ourselves. We ascend to the next level of our journey, and that person just isn't there yet. I've had friendships that I've had the friendship breakup, but now we're friends again because we're back at the same level. So, but I have friends that they're part of my past. Like, you just know that that was the last time you were going to have a conversation, I guess. And
I guess sometimes we've
And
talked
just
about in childhood, your friendships are very because you're there. It's
yeah.
not based on necessarily similar interests or likes or whatever. It's just situational.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that's what Jess Brownell said she wanted to explore with why she chose to have Eloise and Penelope have this huge fight and this friendship breakup, because she wanted to explore that. Was their friendship strong enough to elevate and grow into an adult relationship in and of itself?
which is crazy to me because if you look at the second half of season 2, where Eloise literally, sorry, season 1, part 2, like before the Lady Whistledown release of Marina and after, like before Lady Whistledown and after Lady Whistledown, and you can literally see she makes her entire personality to champion Penelope specifically back into the good graces of the Ton, not because she cares about the Ton, but because she hates Penelope to suffer at the hands of the Ton.
Yeah. Well, and Colin's the same way. These two have protected Penelope in various ways since they met as children. And for either of their relationships, for what their relationship was, be it, marriage and friendship, for either of them to be able to mature into an adult relationship and to move past the just friend stage for the both of them, because now Pen and Eloise are going to be not only the best of friends, but also sisters. For them to get to that point, they had to break that pattern of Colin and Eloise coming to her rescue, right? She had to realize that she could stand on her own 2 feet and that she could stand up for herself on her own so that they would all be on equal footing, because the person who was behind was Pen, because not only did everyone else underestimate her, because their protectiveness of her was their own underestimation of her. Like her mother said, her greatest regret was her overlooking Penelope all these years and not realizing Penelope's potential. Colin and Eloise, kind of had that same mindset. Penelope needs them. Penelope needs protecting. Penelope needs, and it kind of comes the mantra from the book of, Lady Violet asking the brothers to always dance with her. Like, we have to be kind to Penelope. We have to be kind to Penelope. And so you kind of feel like Violet still had that mentality towards Penelope. We just don't see it because it occurred when she was a child. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, they also underestimated Penelope to the point. I mean, Penelope underestimated herself, and she had to step up and she had to see how powerful she was, not as Lady Whistledown, but as herself, before she would have a truly healthy marriage without Colin trying to protect her all the time and save her all the time. And Eloise as her friend slash sister, and now we're all a Bridgerton, and you know what that means. Bridgertons band together and stick together and show up for one another. Like, they would always have this Penelope complex of, we got to protect her.
They kind of said that because he is now getting a kind of an inside light into what it's been like in the Featherington house, and that the Featheringtons, they do that, but it's more out of like responsibility rather than love, the protection. Like, I think they protect each other not because they love each other, but because it's what society expects them to do, if that makes any sense. And I actually think that if it were up to Philippa or Prudence, well, more so Prudence, I think that Prudence would only ever protect people to save her own skin. She would never protect Penelope the way that Penelope has protected her, because she's just too selfish.
Oh, yeah. I don't think the Featheringtons did not know how to have each other's backs. The Bridgerton have each other's backs. I mean, they can't even promenade after a scandal without it being the whole family.
Yeah.
So I don't even think Portia, I still don't think, and I hope we kind of see some, I mean, we don't have the Featherington sisters, and I don't know what they're going to do about that. Write them like, oh, they went to America. I don't know what they're going to do there, but Portia just never has time for all her kids. She doesn't have the space for all of her kids. And even
I think it's going to be that Penelope buys them a house in the country.
I mean, they got to exit somehow.
Yeah.
But I think that it's going to fit. It's going to make logical sense, because Portia has never had the spoons or the space for all 3 of her kids. And Penelope, honestly, and I still haven't been able to decipher her letter fully to Violet, but we can see her growth over the course of being a part of the Bridgertons, because the minute he said we're engaged, she became family to every one of them. I mean, she pretty much already was, because she was Eloise's best friend, but this elevated that connection, and she felt it. She understood why they stand up for each other, because they love each other, and they couldn't imagine, I mean, as much as they grouse about it, they really couldn't imagine not doing it. And
That
so
reminds me of the notes that I literally just wrote last night before I went to sleep, before my internet gave out completely, is when Benedict gives the toast to your wives, and I felt like it was almost a threat to Colin. Unlike Marina, you will follow through this marriage. She is your wife now. Like, you have no choice in the matter, buddy. You are marrying her.
Yeah, and I do also think that is his kind of as the go-between between the two brothers, because
Mhm.
Colin and Antony are antagonistic toward each other, and they just don't have anything in common. Because Antony is the rake and Colin was the true gentleman. That
Mhm.
it was Benedict's way of going, now you have something in common. Let's act like
Mhm.
we're brothers, right?
But it also kind of
Um,
felt like I need to not go into it. No,
yeah,
no.
but no, like, and I think Benedict is the key also to Penelope choosing to follow the Bridgertons mantra of standing up for each other and being honest and doing the right thing for the family and being loyal to the Bridgerton family, and not following Portia's example that she had been brought up with for the Featheringtons. Because if you think about, after Colin
It's a
found
crime that
out,
we've never
and
had in Benedict. Crime.
well, and we see like she just doesn't talk in front of Benedict really, and I think that's going to be a big deal in season 4, because I think she's going to speak and it's going to be profound, and Benedict's going to be like, "Damn." But when she walks up to Eloise and she's like, "Good day," to Eloise, and she's just standing there, and Benedict says, like, "Hello, Penelope," or whatever he says, and she doesn't answer him, and he was like, "Oh, well, I'm just gonna go over here with this and read this," and like, she in that moment realizes and understands, like, he's also very observant, and he understands, like, he's willing to give her that space, even though they've never truly had a relationship, the two of them. And she felt that warmth, that he was open and genuine with her in that moment. So she didn't want to cause any reason to lose that with him also. She'd already had to navigate losing Colin's trust and losing his good favor. And she's had to navigate losing Eloise's, because she held secrets with the both of them. So when Benedict stood up and was charming and understanding, and for everything he didn't understand, she's like, I can't do this again.
Mhm.
I cannot be dishonest with him. I cannot start a relationship with another Bridgerton with deceit. And that's when she made her decision. Like, he's too good. The rest of the family's too good. I just can't do it. I have to come clean, not necessarily before they got married, but because everything just happened so quick right then, of Colin finding out and whatever. But yeah, I think that Benedict was the key, because of his genuine nature. She didn't want to go through and make all the same mistakes over again.
Right. Let's talk about the Bassett Ball. Bassett Ball. So, because I can't remember if we talked about this in the last episode or not. I would have known if I got to finish my editing, Stephen.
Mm-mm. Well, maybe it'll jog my memory if
talking about like how Penelope and Colin discuss the situation with Marina, and how neither Eloise nor Colin actually put two and two together. And we had this whole scenario of, because we've talked about, remind me, have we talked about Eloise not blaming Penelope even though she knew? Because Penelope literally says to Eloise, in it, they're in Eloise's dressing room, bedroom, whatever. And Penelope literally admits that the whole family knew about it and were covering it up for Marina. Well, not for Marina, but for their own sake, I guess.
Well, yeah, she didn't say they all knew at the same time. She just said because they were talking in the house, the servants knew. So, because they were talking about who could have spread, and
Yes.
they basically came down to servants and or merchant who would have been privy to conversations going on around them, because the family did talk about it and might not have been discreet amongst those people. So I don't necessarily think Penn said, "Oh yeah, we all knew the whole time," kind of thing. And I think Eloise took the perspective from her friendship that Penelope could not have meant her. She was just having brevity of words and included herself, but surely she didn't know, because we had a whole conversation about not knowing how a woman came to be with child without being married, right? Penelope didn't know. So this had to be Portia and everyone talking about it, and the servants spreading it, or maybe the dressmaker.
And Sis Penelope definitely writes as if she knows a lot more than what she actually does. And I think that they word it that way specifically to give us doubt of who, because obviously in season 1 we didn't know who Lady Whistledown was, you know, because she's writing as if she's a married woman who knows what goes on in a married room, you know, because she talks about when Daphne gets married and she's going to enjoy her wedding night, and all those kinds of things. But then when it comes to there's
all of the phrasing though is probably the most bawdy ladies could be over tea, right? Married women giggling like, ooh, she got the Duke. That's gonna be a wedding night she'll remember, you know, like that. And Penn, being observant, takes those words because she knows she's got to come off like she does know.
Yeah.
So she just puts that in her writer's repertoire, like that just goes into her notes.
But it's incredibly intelligent of her to do so, because she's writing about something that she doesn't actually, but she writes it in a way that no one would ever suspect that it's her, because she sounds so knowledgeable.
Well, and that's the point. She needs to not be found out. So she's got to, and I think that's a lot of her arc in season 3 too, is that she has done so much to keep Lady Whistledown from becoming found out that she's forgotten who she is, and she's never had a chance to develop who she is as an adult woman, as a woman out on the ton who's marriageable. And that's part of the reason she has to come to grips with that in season 3, when she decides she's going to go for a husband and it's just going awry, that she did not develop that part of her own self. Like, she had completely lost herself, much like young women do when they're in their, you know, in a first relationship or first deep friendship, deep relationship. Sometimes you kind of lose yourself. You forget that you still get to be yourself, and that person can love you, and they don't have to be mutually exclusive. A lot of, especially women, I don't necessarily see a lot of men do it, but women do, where they kind of, you know, you got that woman who gets with the guy that watches Sunday football and Monday Night Football, and she becomes the football wife, right? So I think Penelope became Whistledown. Like, everything she did was about Whistledown at first as an outlet, but then as a business, to the point where she starts season 3 like she doesn't even know who she is. And so her and Colin are on the same plane.
I think there comes a point in which, like, as a writer, from a writing perspective, you write what people want. I think a point where she was writing everything that she heard, because that's good. And then she sat down and looked at her business model in season 3 and realized, I don't actually like myself. I don't feel good about what I'm writing. And I think that she went through a major identity crisis as Lady Whistledown and kind of reassessed, I have power here. I need to actually, and I think that Genevieve is a wonderful friend for her, because Genevieve does kind of support her craft whilst also making her aware of the power that she yields with that. And the Queen does a little bit as well, obviously, in that last episode. Reminds her, the Ton will be watching you, Penelope, not Lady Whistledown, you. So
well, and I think, and I'm just gonna say it, I think that Genevieve makes a good friend, but not a good mentor, because Genevieve comes from a very different background, a very different, like, Genevieve is giving her these choices that would have been what Genevieve's choices were in her working world, like in her survival at her level. Those Genevieve's always had to be out for herself, and all of her guidance was kind of in that vein. Even her guidance for how to fix the problem for Eloise was to betray Eloise and call her out and Whistledown, because that's kind of like low-hanging fruit. That's the easiest thing to do. And Genevieve's had to make those decisions. I mean, Genevieve is not Madame Delacroix. So there's a story there about putting on a persona, and what choices did she have to make for that one moment intermittent. Hold on. I'm going to hit. Okay. We got derailed by a phone call from my brother because it's two of my niece's birthday parties today. Their birthday is literally 5 days apart, something like that. I got serenaded Pink Pony Club just by a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old officially.
You okay? So I don't even remember what point we were at.
This is why some podcasts have producers. Where were we?
I'm too chaotic for that. They would give up on me in 3 seconds flat. But like, I quit. I'm out. Scale is pure chaos.
Yeah, like done.
Yeah. So looking at episode 8. Okay, let's talk about Eloise's interaction with Queen and her disruption to the Queen ruining Lady Whistledown. So I think we can see that in season 1, Eloise becomes disenchanted with. I think that's the way. It's not to say that Eloise dislikes Lady Whistledown. I think she just realizes, hey, she has this great power and she's not yielding it the way that she could or should be, you know. And I think that does play into season 3's Penelope of one moment. Pause. Sorry, we had another brief intermittence. I had a message from my real estate agent saying that my house has gone unconditional today. So as of today, my house is officially sold. And that means as of tomorrow, hopefully, I will be able to confirm the new house that we have purchased and put our deposit in for that. So very, very exciting news for us, even if my internet is playing hooky.
Yeah.
Okay, so dumb. That's okay. It fits right in with the whole theme of season 1. Everyone just being dumb. So yes, Eloise is definitely really disenchanted with Lady Whistledown at this point. It's not to say that she doesn't love Lady Whistledown. I think she loves everything that Lady Whistledown stands for, and the premise of it. I think she just believes that it's being misused. She didn't. Like, the gossip was all good and fun when it was just random people that Lady Whistledown was writing about. Even when she was writing about Daphne, Eloise did not care whether it affected Daphne for the good or bad. Daphne did not care. She just wanted everyone else's gossip. And I think that's because Eloise does have that desire to be like her brothers, to be able to go to White's, to be able to hear everything going on in the ton. I think she resents the fact that she only gets limited information based on the fact that she's a girl. And she views Lady Whistledown as above that. How does this woman get the gossip from everywhere? Like, she's a miracle worker. And so she builds Lady Whistledown up in her head as this all-powerful being that has access to everything. How does she know everything? How is she hearing everything? You know, she's this magical being. And then when it actually affects someone that she knows and loves in a negative way, doesn't, as I said, doesn't care about Daphne. Sorry, Daphne, RIP your feelings. But when it affects Penelope, that's when she's like, hey, wait a minute, what you write affects others. That hurts others. And that's when she's like, well, if you can hurt others, then you can help them too. I need to find you and kind of set you back on the path of good and help Penelope, because Penelope deserves it. All these other people that you're writing about, they deserve whatever. I don't care about them, but Penelope deserves better. And so she goes on this massive, not witch hunt, because it's not to crucify her, but she goes on this massive hunt and thinks that the Queen is on board with this. We're gonna find Lady Whistledown to encourage her to do good. And then when her and the Queen meet up, and she realizes the Queen doesn't have the same interest as her. Her interest is in destroying the Queen, destroying Lady Whistledown, sorry, the Queen of Gossip. That is when Eloise is like, oh no, I've allied myself incorrectly. I did not read the whole picture, and we are on two very different pages. And that is when she kind of concocts this secret, you know, double life, gassing up Brims.
Yeah, and we got to remember too that
it was your idea, the Bow Street Runners.
Yeah, the Eloise at the Bassett Ball, where Penn felt rejected when Colin said he was going on his travels, even though she had encouraged it and she realized she was going to be without Colin. Eloise went through a rejection too, because imagine being an unheard young lady in her home. She has so much family. She's just unheard and feels unheard. But she's got the ear of the Queen for a majority of this season. And it makes her feel special. Like, the Queen wants to see me. The Queen wants to see me. And then the Queen shuns her at the Bassett Ball, like, oh, you don't have anything she needs to know.
But it's not just that the Queen sees her. the queen sees her for her intelligence and her knowledge, not her beauty.
Right. As an
Which is
asset, like
an intellectual asset.
So she
And
went through that arc as well. Like she had that person that made her feel, for Eloise, it was the queen. And for Penelope, it was Lady Whistledown.
Yeah. Finally being seen for what she knows rather than what she looks like. Penelope's case, completely unseen for what she looks like. And I'm still like, I have such big feelings coming into episode 5 about Portia completely overlooking Penelope's chances on the ton. Big feels about that. Big feels. Tasha's gonna get on her soapbox.
I have ideas as well.
Where the Colin episode, or sorry, the Luke episode was Penelope was Patty's soapbox. Penelope's appearance is definitely Tasha's soapbox.
Oh, for sure. But I also think there's enough in the scripting and enough different situations that tell me that Portia had a Marina type situation for herself, and it didn't go like, she saw only one path because that's the only path she had traveled, I think.
So Eloise, obviously, talking to the queen and realizing, hey, we're on completely different pitches as to what to do with Lady Whistledown. I think she panicked and she realized, hey, the only way to protect Penelope, ironically, is to protect Lady Whistledown. And so she concocts this whole idea. Now, Footman John accepts Eloise's pen money, and I think he would have done it even without the pen money, because realistically, what was some pen money in relation to his job working for one of the best families to work for in the ton? You know what I'm saying? Like I think he did it for Eloise, not so much for the pen money. And I do wonder whether we're going to get some interesting interactions between, not relationship wise, but as like a friendship kind of a thing. I wonder whether we're going to get more Footman John and Eloise content in the next season and show that the workers can be friends with their, she's not his master because she's just a lady of the house, but
she's someone in the family.
Yes. So like I kind of want to see a friendship kind of bloom between them, and it kind of helps Benedict to realize that, hey, we're all just people. Like we can make this work between him and Sophie. Because they said that we're going to get more upstairs, downstairs mix. Well, not mix, we're going to get more downstairs content. So I'm hoping that also means that we're going to get that friendship between Footman John and Eloise, because I do think that he helped Eloise in that scenario, and with the whole visiting Theo thing, because he does generally have like a friendship with her, or at least it will be.
Did you see the TikTok where Ollie Higginson said that Footman John was going to be spending more time in Bloomsbury?
Yes.
And people were like,
not in like, he won't be there for himself, but he will be amongst Bloomsbury.
Well, and people were saying he's going to be the one passing the letters for Eloise and Sir Philip, but Philip doesn't live in Bloomsbury. He's out in Kent in the country. So I'm wondering if him being in Bloomsbury means he's trying to level up and become a working man and not, I mean, and the thing is that he's actually as a footman in a respectable home, he actually has a higher station than a lot of like working people. So yeah, I just find it interesting, like what would bring him into Bloomsbury, which Bloomsbury is known to be like the hub for living, the suburbs, what shall we say, of the working class.
I feel like it's going to have something to do with, if Penelope can be a writer, then maybe Eloise can be too. And maybe he's the one who chaperones her to Bloomsbury to do writing, because that's where a lot of the printer presses are, isn't it?
Well, it's the like the way it's read in the books is Bloomsbury is like a working mecca, like solicitors and merchants and those accountants kind of thing, those kind of jobs. The Mayfair adjacent, the ones that could be invited to parties, but they work.
But isn't that where the printer presses are? In Bloomsbury?
I mean, they're in several places, but there probably are some there. They don't actually say where the printers is. And Colin just says, I can't believe I followed you to this part of town. Like, I thought you were abducted. Yeah. And in the book, that wasn't Bloomsbury. I mean, she went across town. Yeah.
That was in a very, but that wasn't to a printer press. That was to the church.
Bride's church, yeah.
Yeah. The writer's church. But Eloise literally risks her entire reputation in season 1. And this is kind of where the risky behavior of Eloise begins. She risks her entire reputation to go to, a sketchy part of town at night with just a footman, which that alone could have ruined her entire reputation and made her unmarriageable, which probably she probably thinks is a double whammy. Yes, two birds, one stone kind of a situation.
Well, and a lady could be escorted, could be chaperoned by a footman if she is taking a carriage ride with a suitor and there's no one else available.
Yes.
But
that's in the carriage
no suitor would take her to that part of town
at nighttime. No.
Yeah. So if she was seen there, they would assume that she was having an affair with the footman.
Yes.
Trying to run away
So
with the footman.
Just in doing what she did in order to save Lady Whistledown was enough to ruin her entire reputation. So like Penelope and Eloise both go like they both potentially ruin themselves to save each other because that is how much they care for one another.
Correct.
And
but
Eloise does have that whole ADHD thing where it's all or nothing. It consumes her, like when she a special interest, it consumes her entire being. And every kind of logical part of her brain that would say, hey, maybe this isn't the best idea, completely goes out, it's in the bin. And her brain is singularly focused on this one thing. Logic be damned. And I think that's why her says the whole Lady Whistledown thing, because she cannot go bam, 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 bam. Like she's very like, this is the path I'm on. I've got to get through this to get to this, to get to this, to get to this. And then we can talk about reconciliation. But like, I've got a lot of paths to get through before that can happen.
Yeah, Colin's very similar in the way he processes. Like he's got to take it linearly.
He needs to get past those angry feelings before he can start processing.
Yeah.
The logic behind it. And that's the thing.
The joys of being neurodivergent when you're dysregulated, you are not logical.
No. Like yourself, just be logical. Just be logical. Because it doesn't work like that.
Nope.
I think I'm just checking the time to see how we're going for time, because my husband's going to be awaiting my text message to say that we've gone unconditional on this house, but I can't.
Well, and I just want to say that I think that the fact that her very disenfranchisement with Lady Whistledown and the reason why she's so disillusioned is a clue that Lady Whistledown is Penelope, because when you look at Penelope's own journey with Lady Whistledown and finding herself, when she talks up the Featheringtons, it's about Marina. It's not about the Featheringtons. It's about Marina. And then when Marina breaks her heart and turns out she's just like the Featheringtons, she crashes and burns in Whistledown. And then Penelope is even more derogatory to the Featheringtons, including her. And that's because she's going through the very same thing as Colin. Like, I was so foolish. Why was I so stupid? Why did I believe she could have been my friend or my sister or whatever? Like, how did I not see through her? I'm observant. I should have been able to see through her. And she was playing that out. And I think if Colin and Eloise would have
all the things that fit into her view.
Yeah, I think if they would have understood, if they wouldn't have, I don't want to say used, but if they wouldn't have both been benefiting from the friendship of Pen for all these years and her grace and her joy and her, like, she's always got a sunny disposition because she's masking for them, they would have seen it was her, because she's so self-deprecating. Anytime she talks about herself, it's horrid.
Yes. And I don't think that they see that, because I think they can't see past the way that they see her to see the way that she sees herself. They're blinded by their own vision of her.
Right. And what she says about the Bridgerton is so personal. Like, between what is said about the Bridgertons being so personal and what she says about her being so derogatory, and everyone else is literally just reporting news.
Yes.
They should have, I don't see how, I almost think it was a misuse of.
Anyone from within the Bridgerton house should have picked up that it was her. But anyone outside of the Bridgerton house,
Danbury.
But I mean, the Featheringtons were so just left in the ton that it was probably quite easy to overlook how negatively focused they were on the Featheringtons. The Bridgertons were very well liked in the ton, and the Featheringtons were very well disliked even before the Lady Whistledown article started. So I can see how anyone outside of the inner circle would think, oh, well, actually, that kind of fits. But I think anyone within the Bridgertons should have, or Portia because Portia's one who is very, and Danbury, very, very observant, that I think Danbury definitely knew. And there's definitely a line. Oh, when the article comes out, the Lady Whistledown article announcing Colin and Penelope's engagement. We'll talk about that in the next episode we record, but she definitely knows. She definitely knows when that article comes out. I can just tell with her response.
Yeah.
So I think what you're saying is true, and I think that is how Lady Danbury figured out that it is Penelope, because I think Lady Danbury is enough of an outsider, but she is one of the most astute people of the ton who actually takes her own feelings out of the mix to actually assess properly rather than looking through the lenses of her own feelings. She actually assesses everything. I cut off your track to go onto my track. It was the same track, but it was a different track. So finish your track. Choo choo train.
Well, no, it was that I think it was, I don't want to say misguided. I just feel like there was a lack of taking the opportunity of what the story could have looked like and been shaped into had Colin or Eloise. I mean, I understand Eloise finding out the way she did, but I think the story potentially could have been richer and we could have had a better Colin experience as fans if he follows her, finds out she's Whistledown, and initially gets mad, like, so it's you, and like she's all like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a big deal. He's furious with me, I'm going to lose him, and then him go, why didn't you tell me? And her be like, for various reasons. And he's like, I've known for quite some time.
Yeah.
Like, this told me you were Whistledown. This told me you were Whistledown. This told me you were Whistledown. You know, your letters. I mean, I think Colin, they choose to play him obtuse when it suits the story. They choose to play him intelligent and crafty and clever when it suits the story, and he's not a cohesive character because they change him to suit what they want the story to look like, and that was a missed opportunity, because I think that scene, being rom-com season anyway, would have been, yes, it was emotional and it was great, but it still could have been great, like him be mad, like, why didn't you tell me? I could have protected you, I could have helped you. And her like, wait a minute, you could have protected me? Like, yeah, I've known do you honestly think I didn't put two and two together when you were writing me all summer? It's the same. I'm a writer. Like, I write too. It's the same. You know, it's the same voice. And her be like, oh, of course. And then them work together on hiding her identity for a while until they realize it's going to affect the family and they need to out her identity, just like in the book.
And it could have been like, yes, I figured it out. What you're saying about how I'm a writer, you know, I saw the similarities between the writing. But he could have said, you know, I may not always agree with what you write, but I do respect what.
Or even be like, I always came to find you to ask you to dance at least once every ball, and for more than half of them, you were already gone. Right? Like, where were you?
And it's so funny starting season 2, because it's my least watched season, and I really, and it's funny because I've literally gone from season 1. I started season 2 and then realized, oh, I've got to write my notes for episode 5, and I've skipped straight back to season 3, and I'm like, poor season 2 never gets its moment. Poor season 2 is the ugly duckling.
Literally.
What I have seen of season 2, I think I'm about 3 episodes into it, is literally just Penelope getting agitated that Eloise is now out on the ton because she can't get her Lady Whistledowns out, and she's like being thwarted by her own best friend wanting to be there and support her and be by her side and be like, we're in it together, I'll always be here to support you. And she's like, can you just go away now? I've got things to do.
Well, and I think like that's something we should address too, because for that whole period, if Whistledown had not been found out the way it was found out, what would Pen and Eloise's friendship have looked like? Because Penelope really did feel like Colin was potentially coming around, and she was getting frustrated.
Instead of telling her, we never see her like kind of thinking, oh, I really need to tell. We see her try to tell Colin a few times, but by that point it was already a bit too late, to be honest. But we never see her pondering whether to tell Eloise or not, which is crazy to me.
But we see her giving hints. I have said it from the beginning. Yeah. It was meant to be a joke. She thought Eloise would get it right away. Eloise did not, and she wanted Eloise to figure it out on her own, because she, as Eloise's friend, understands how sensitive Eloise is, that she is female with the brain she has, and she doesn't get acknowledged for it. And she wanted Eloise to figure it out and her to go, "You got it. Yay, you." Right?
I reason that Eloise likes it so much. So you know how like new music tends to sample old music because it hits that nostalgic part in our brain and makes it like an instant hit for us because our brains are like, oh, well, this is familiar. This I like this. And then you realize, oh, actually sample from an old song that I loved or all my parents listened to or whatever. I wonder whether Eloise's instant absolute infatuation with Lady Whistledown isn't just because she is a lady riding in the ton and making something of herself outside of the bounds of the ton, but it's also because it has that familiar element to it of, I feel connected to this, but I don't quite know why.
Right.
Because it reminds her of her and Eloise, her and Penelope sitting off to the side of the ton, like people judging, people watching together.
Well, they would have only been doing that at at her house or whatever, but they would have been judging the people they heard Portia and Lady Cowper talking about.
Going out shopping together, like on shopping trips, they would have done it, like people
Yes.
watching.
P.S. Your phone does not acknowledge that you're speaking if I'm speaking. That's when you
Sorry.
cut out. Oh, I'm not saying like I'm just letting you know. Like we have to be more conscious about back.
Yeah.
So what were you saying? Because you got lip sync.
If the girls are like out shopping together, that I think is where they would have done their people watching and judging, and like I think that's where it kind of developed because obviously Penelope, the Featheringtons wouldn't have had many visitors.
Well, just
I
Lady
don't
Cowper.
think. Yeah, but I can't imagine Eloise wanting to be in the presence of Lady Cowper. So I think if Lady Cowper was over, Penelope would have bowed out and gone to Eloise's, and that's why because Penelope and Cressida are within a year of each other. So they should have logistically been friends, but they are not. So I think that they very much had experienced each other, decided they did not like each other from a very young age. And whenever Cowper was visiting, Penelope would go over to Eloise's. My brain.
Well, and again, I think that Lady Cowper and Portia's friendship is that friendship that wasn't, it's more of a frenemies and they knew each other on the ton and they just have always snarked.
They're both not nice women. And I think that they mutually snarked together, not because I think they were just I need someone that I can bitch with. That I think that's what it was. Mutual
right.
bitching.
And that's why Cressida and Penelope were not friends because Lady Cowper condescended to the Featheringtons and she would have never allowed Cressida over at all.
No. Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. Let's look because I don't know why my notes seem to have kerfuffled. But one of the last scenes we get is it no, it's season 1 where we find the end of episode 8 where we find out that Archibald is dead and we get the scene with Eloise being like,
Yes.
Penelope's popping her little heart out. And Eloise is like, I'm gonna be here to support you forever and ever.
Yeah, that's the end of season 1. And the Eloise, of course, would think that she's that distraught over her father passing because Eloise lived through that experience. But
yes,
Penelope she didn't have the same kind of relationship with her father that Eloise had with her father. So that was just
very convenient cover for Penelope.
Yeah, that was a non-news day in terms of Lord.
I would be really curious as to how Lady Whistledown would have written his death. Like if it was genuinely from Penelope, like I don't think that there would be anything heartfelt in there at all. And in fact, I think it would be rather scathing. Like if Penelope were to truly go in on her dad, it would be something like and Lord Featherington's mismanaged ways have finally caught up on him. And he's been not.
Well, she wasn't privy to the whys behind the death. The girls walked in and they said he was dead, and then Portia went to his study and was looking for stuff and realized the money was gone, and all of that occurred between her and Varley. So the girls were not privy to all of his stuff.
Penelope knew enough about their money struggles, and then like that they found out about it, and then Portia going into the room and searching for money, and then immediately screaming and crying. I think that Penelope is actually intelligent enough.
At the door with the glass.
I think that she's intelligent enough that she would have pieced together her mum going into the room looking for money. I don't think she would have known it was over gambling debts, but I think she would have suspected that it probably had something to do with it. And I
Oh
think it
no,
would have
I
gone about
think
the Tom would have gossiped about it for sure.
yeah,
At
I
White's,
think she knew he was a gambler and it was
yes.
looked down upon
And
because
that they were
yeah, I think she knew he was a gambler because that would have been talked about. And honestly, gambling was okay. Everybody
mm,
gambled.
mm,
There's actually some stuff. I've done some research on something that we're not bringing out until the stag party scene, but
mhm.
like it's the gambling was normal. I'm sorry, what?
It was manly to gamble.
Yes, there is known books of bet between gentlemen from anything as little as which rain rivulet makes it to the bottom of a window pane. Legit in a book, and we'll get into what book later in life. Which
Book of
rain
Life.
rivulet makes it to the bottom of the window pane first, and like what gentleman friend amongst their group was going to get married this season, was going to find a wife this season. So like gentlemen bet on everything. It was just uncouth not to honor your debts in a
Yeah,
bet.
yeah. So, but I do think that they definitely, I think they were aware of those on who were desperate to bet on anything and that had a problem. Like, I think it was normal and it was expected to gamble, but I think it was acknowledged when it became an addiction or an issue.
Kind of like
You
the
know,
drinking thing in season 3. Like when they talk about gambling with Lord Featherington to his face, they're like, maybe you should sit this one out.
yes.
And then her saying, 2 drinks is celebratory, but a whole bottle is a cry for help. I think everything in the gentry, because it stems from gentle breeding, has its
Yes.
limit from what is acceptable to what
Well,
becomes faux
well,
pas.
look at Simon. Season 1, Simon, he was a duke. That is one step down from a prince. Literally one step down from a prince. You are essentially royalty in the ton, and they all completely were like, "No, you've gone too far. Like you are too drunk. We're not putting up with you at White's."
Yeah.
Like even the more stars wouldn't tolerate him at that point.
The thing is, though, is man, you keep bringing up stuff that makes that.
Sorry.
I've really got to curb my. That might become a whole episode.
Yeah, we will. But yeah, I think I think it was a fantastic moment for Eloise season 1 where, she thinks it's about her dad. So, like, I think it was a really good moment of empathy for Eloise to be there and support Penelope through something real rather than, oh, Penelope's presentation to the Queen didn't go well. That was a non-event. But now she's actually getting to support Penelope through something real and actually put her own stuff aside. Like, and she's so like, I'm gonna find Lady Whistledown for you. I'm going to fix this. Your reputation will be restored. Like, we'll get through this together. Like, it's
Well,
the
I
whole
think,
versus the world kind of thing.
yeah, I think Eloise feels bad that
Eloise feels responsible because it was her family that she thinks ruined. Well, no. I think Eloise is actually a little bit on the same train as Daphne of Colin can weather the storm, but Penelope can't. Like Penelope wasn't even the one involved in the scandal, but she still gets ruined by the splashback. So she's like, how is it that you didn't do anything wrong? Marina did, but Colin walks away unscathed, but somehow you get ruined because of it. I think she feels the full her justice hackles are up completely, and Daphne has the
yeah,
power
but
to at least.
I think that's a deflection because she knows she overstepped when Penelope clapped back at her about we can't all be a pretty Bridgerton, and she knows she upset Penelope, but she doesn't know how she upset Penelope at that time. And when the Marina stuff comes out and Penelope acknowledges that the family knew, it makes Eloise kind of go back and go, oh, like I wasn't a good friend. I didn't see this. And so now she's straight up like, I'm going to save you. I'm going to be there for you no matter what. I'll get you through this with your papa. I'm going to be the bestest friend amongst ever best friends because part of it is because of feeling guilty that she should have seen it. She's so clever. She should have seen it and she didn't.
This sounds really bad, but like Archibald dying was the best thing to happen to the Featheringtons in that moment where they were under so much scandal because it made the ton at least feel some level of empathy for them and some level of grace for them. And it meant that they could go into their mourning period and it wasn't seen as them like hiding away from the ton from shame over the Marina situation. It was, oh, they've gone into mourning. And now the conversation is about Archibald dying in whatever. I don't know what would have gone around the ton. I think the husbands would have known, but whether they let
They
their
wouldn't talk
wife.
about it because there is also an etiquette of like that expression, I do not speak ill of the dead, is
Mhm.
there for a reason because that's a form of
Yeah.
etiquette. Like once somebody
Mm.
dies, you don't
But there's
speak
going to be
ill of them.
husband who shares it with a wife, who shares it with her girlfriend at a brunch together, who shares it with a friend at a ball, and that's how gossip gets around on. Even if it's not well known, I think there would have been stirrings in the ton of how and why he died.
Oh yeah, everybody knows it was nefarious in some way, right?
Yes,
Everybody knows that
because of it,
Marina was
it
in
also.
their house all that time, so they had to have known. It couldn't just be Marina's scheme.
And you talked about how, you don't speak ill of the dead or you don't talk about those things. Everyone knew. And even the wives made comments of, oh, I heard you had a big win, but where is your husband? I guess some things don't change. And the very much insinuation is that he's off at the brothels celebrating without you. Some things never change. So they did know that he was attending brothels and drinking and gambling and those kinds of things. So it
I
was
think
talk.
that was a your winnings are short lived because if he's not here, we know where he's at. He's gambling that money.
See, I took it as they knew that he was at the brothels.
Well, we never really saw him at the brothels. We know everybody goes to the brothels, but we never saw him there. He was always at White's gambling. So when they said that, like, oh, where is he? We heard he had a big win. I took that as like they know he's a gambling addict and her windfall is
The,
short lived.
the way that
They were rubbing it in.
the way that the Madame greeted Lord Featherington was very much a, you are a regular customer. Come through, Lord Featherington. We've got special, just for you. And they seemed like the kind that we don't like him. We know him and we don't like him. You know how the way that we talk about how in season 3, the girls will like Colin. They're familiar with him. They know they can be safe with him. I think the opposite could be said for Lord Featherington. He was schemy. He was in, he was out, was just there for himself sort of thing. Would have
Yeah,
shown no
I
man
mean, he
and would have,
definitely was there for himself.
yeah, I mean, most men are. But
And
you know
what
what I'm
and
saying?
considering the two men were in the room, like I honestly never took that as necessarily being at a brothel. I took it as because we saw the ladies come in, the companions into
Mhm,
White's, like when Sienna came in. I just
mhm.
assumed that was like obviously they're not going to sit in that room and do things at a certain point. So I thought that that was another area of White's where meetings occurred, private conversations,
So
private interactions.
asked like, have you got your best for me? Like, have you got the like only the best girls for you, sir? He was going in there
Yeah.
for not that kind of meeting.
Yeah. And it's been a minute since I've seen that.
Like I just rewatched it the other day and it was definitely like he was going in there in his mind to be meeting up
To
with two girls.
celebrate.
Yes. Yep. So yeah. And that was definitely a madame who was organizing that situation. That's what they were called, right?
I think
Madame?
that madam, yeah. I think the girls, the courtesans or whatever coming into White's, most of the time Sienna joined them because she's got to find a new gentleman to put her up to
Yeah.
sponsor her.
Yeah.
Because that's her soft life. That's how she remains having a soft life is having a gentleman sponsor her. But I always thought that was orchestrated by some sort of madame's.
So before we wrap up, because I've got much to do today.
By the
Let
way, Tangent Squad, you found out the good news before Steven.
you
He'll
did,
know.
yeah.
Like by the time this airs, he'll know. But she said it on the pod before she told her husband.
Sorry. Tell my
Patty knew first.
Daddy. Oh, Jesus. Stephen's always want to know. Daddy does that. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Not parents know yet, and they're just over in the next room. So yeah, looking back, I think that the biggest part of season 1 that I wanted to kind of touch on is how similar Eloise and Colin both react to the Marina situation in regards to Penelope. Both of them are smart enough that they both should have figured out, yes, in fact, Penelope did know, and at least on Colin's behalf, that Penelope did try and tell him within the bounds of what was acceptable to be saying. She tried her best to warn him away from this situation without explicitly saying, "Hey, Marina, she's been getting giggity down by the church." She did her best to tell him within the bounds of not ruining and exposing her family and betraying her family. Because at the end of the day, I think he respects the fact that she didn't explicitly say, hey, Marina is pregnant, because that would ruin her family. And he knows, hey, she's also got to protect her family, not just me. So I don't think he blames her for that at all, because to him, family is always first before you're married anyway. That in which point your wife is your family anyway. But you know what I'm saying? For him,
Yeah.
Bridgerton first. And so for her to put Featherington first, he would never ever fault her for that. So when he goes to Marina and says the whole, sorry, Penelope, and says the whole, like, I've been a fool. You tried to tell me, I didn't listen, or I misinterpreted what you were saying. And he apologized. Like that was an apology for not hearing her, which is a far cry from how he twists it in season 3. But we know that when we're upset
and drunk,
logic goes out the window, and it's just how you feel rather than what actually happens sometimes.
Well, and I also think like Colin arguing with her in the street outside the Modiste is a Colin who, like, the minute they became engaged, they were married. And kind of in his mind, they've been married their whole lives. Like, he just is like, how could you have not told me to my face? Not remembering that 2 years ago, I didn't even know that you could have even thought of me like that, let alone, like, you can tell he felt awkward in their home, that he had not been in their home that much. So what we have now is nowhere near what we had then. So and she's exercising quite a bit of patience with him, I think, because she does understand just how upset he is and the fact that he's drunk. And I think she's dealt with that in her home. So, she placates in that moment, I think, as a moment of fawn. Like, she's fawning, like, oh, he's drunk. I don't want to make it worse, kind of thing. So she rewrites history too, and she gives into him and rewrites history to kind of deflect away from this escalating beyond what it needs to be.
Oh, look, there's another.
But yeah, she got her
the time traveler. Wibbly wobbly.
Somebody in Bridgerton is a doctor.
So maybe she used her timey-wimey magic, turned back time, and rewrote history.
Oh. Yeah. Well, and our memories change. Our memories change as time passes. And she probably, that moment was not the best time. As much as I want her to stand up for herself, that moment would not have been the best time to say, I did, because it would have escalated it. Like, she chose the safer route.
She did. But that's okay. I think that is concluding our Penelope Eloise pectorial for the day.
The PEC tutorial.
Oh, but today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode, where we are officially starting with season 3, part 2. I have had so much fun doing my notes this week. As always, like doing our rewatches, we notice so many things, and I think when you are looking at it through a lens of looking for certain interactions, you do see a lot more. So that's really fun. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover, or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please remember to click follow, and leave comments on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening.
And once again, thank you for listening to the musings of two mad women.
Yours truly, Tosh the Kiwi.
And Lady Patty.
And Lord Chris.